Hello, welcome back. So I'm happy that our channel is growing from very small to still very small. But last week, so I had the recording equipment here, and my daughter was playing around with it, and I said, "Be careful." And she's a teenager, so this will make more sense. And so she said, "Oh no, you won't be able to do good videos for your 5 subscribers." So I'm actually happy that now we've more than double that. We're over 10 now. So yeah, but please help me prove my daughter wrong by subscribing. Anyway, so today we're not here to talk about the tribulations of parenting teenagers, but we're here to talk about our tool macrel, which finds antimicrobial peptides in basically in anything. But here we'll be using metagenomics. We'll be building upon the assembly tutorial. There's a link below. And we've got, so this is where we were. So we have this config.fa file, but this could have come from anywhere. You could have used your own pipeline. This could be a genome, anything, right? And so now we're gonna start, as we usually do. We're gonna start as if we were from scratch. So we're gonna create a new environment. We're gonna call macrel tutorial, and so we could have just put all the tools together in the same environment, but because I like to keep these tutorials separate, we always start by creating a new one. And so here, as I say, I've always prepared this ahead of time, so everything runs very fast because everything is in cache. So here maybe it takes just a couple of seconds. If it was when it runs the first time, it maybe takes a couple of minutes to download everything, especially if you have a slightly slower connection. So here we are, so we need to wait. And as I said, we tend to use Mamba, which is the fast version of Conda, but everything would run if you just have Conda install. Again, you just need to wait a little bit longer. So while this is running, let me maybe just give you a little bit of background. So what's going to happen? So macrel finds antimicrobial peptides. So just activate the tutorial, the tutorial environment here, and then install from bioconda. So what are these peptides? So these are short, peptides. In this case, we're looking for them when they are their own gene, so encoded in the metagenome, and we'll use then machine learning to try to get some predictions there. So in the meanwhile, again, this was all cached, so you can see everything's cached there, so it's very fast. Maybe on your side it will take a little bit longer, but so once it finishes, okay, there it is. Let me just check. Yep, something's there. And as many of our tools, it's a subcommand interface. So we run macrel and then the subcommand. And in this case, the subcommand is contigs. And so we need to tell it the FASTA file that we're going to use. So we're going to give it a FASTA file with some contigs. And then we need to also tell it, where to store the output. So just give it output, and actually I think it's just -o. Then here I'm just going to say macrel_out, and then this is going to run, and it's going to take a little bit of time to run. So I'm going to do our typical magic, but just before we get there, just a little bit of background. So right now what macrel is doing is it's looking at each of these individual contexts. It's looking for short genes, which are normally ignored by gene callers for very good reasons, because unfortunately they're very, very hard to predict. So you get a lot of false positives. But what macrel does is it predicts, but then it runs a second tool. So this internal machine learning tool that predicts additionally whether this is or is not a antimicrobial peptide. And so this takes, I think it takes about 10 minutes, maybe 15 to run. But in this case, I'm going to do like this. And boom, it finished. All right, so here, let's see. Yep, there we have the macrel_out. Oops, let me just fix this for you guys. 1, 2, 3. How do I do this? Yep, there it is. And okay. All right. So here we have a macrel_out. And if I just look inside, I can see that, I can spell it less, see that we have a bunch of files. There's this README file, basic information about everything else. There's what what the table is, this macrel.outpredictions.jz. But if we look into just the table, it's also pretty self-explanatory. So here, I'm just going to use ZLS here, and there you can see, so there's this table, so it's predictions. There's an accession number, the actual sequence, and then a probability. So by default, we only output the ones that are predicted to be AMPs. If you can play around with the parameters and check the other ones. And just out of curiosity, let's just count them. So this file has 66 lines. So there's two headers. The first 2 lines were a header. So that's 64 predicted peptides in this data set. So if you read the manuscript, you'll know that we've purposely made this slightly conservative predictor, in the sense that it's more likely to miss peptides than it is to call peptides that are not active. So 64 is probably an underestimate here. But we actually have a paper coming out, hopefully in the not so distant future, where some of these, with our collaborators, we've tested some of these, and the prediction works actually quite well. And so here today we've shown how to use macrel using the command line, because this was, these tutorials have been command line based tutorials, but you can also access it as a web server. So we have, I'll probably do a separate one for doing that, but it's actually quite trivial. So with that, again, any questions, feel free to email or show up on our Discord server or Twitter DMs or anything. We'll have more videos here, so I will see you soon.